Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. Well, as you can see, I have all the moving boxes put away. I'm starting to set up my studio. I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out, but it's not complete, but it is a start. In this video, I want to talk about my friend Troy. His funeral is coming up this Saturday, and I thought it'd be a good idea to share a couple interesting stories. There's this one about the last words of Steve Jobs. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but it's a story about the last words that he said as he was passing away, which I think is just fascinating. And then after that, I want to share the near death experience of Jedediah M. Grant. He was a member of the first presidency, and he had a very interesting experience with the spirit world as he was passing away. So I want to go to Troy's channel. If you're in California, if you live near Hanford, California, his funeral is going to be February 7th, which is this Saturday at 10 a.m. at 2400 North 11th Avenue. So it'd be great if you could support his family and be there in this difficult time. I also wanted to, for one last time, promote the GoFundMe. Now, I clicked on the link and it didn't pull up. So I don't know if that's because they pulled it down and they're not running that GoFundMe anymore. But it might just be my computer. I'm not sure. But I'm going to put the link for this in the description box below. And you can also try, if it doesn't work for you either, I'm going to put these links from his other videos in the description box below. He has Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. I tried to pull those up and those didn't pull up either. So maybe it's all taken down, but please give it a try. Um, you know, I know it's really frustrating when it comes to having to pay money at the end of somebody's life just to have them buried. And I remember when my dad passed away, and at that time I was in the Army. I got my emergency leave. We drove all the way from Fort Hood, Texas to Salt Lake, and we were at the funeral or the cemetery place where you arrange for the headstone and casket and stuff like that. My grandpa was with us, and he was just really moaning and groaning and griping about the costs, and it can get expensive. It definitely can. Um, I do want to point out that these things don't just magically appear. People have to work to produce a headstone or, put together the casket. And if you have the money, then great. Every family is going to be different, but people have to be compensated for their time if they're providing some kind of service. Otherwise, you can do it yourself, I guess. For me, I don't know. I wouldn't mind being cremated. I probably won't be, but I wouldn't mind it. Um, I guess I'll just leave that up to my family. I don't really care either way, but I don't mind that people are compensated for their time to, put all that together. So if you can, please donate to help out with those costs and to help his wife Andrea and their kids move forward um, without Troy. And just please help them if you can. Um, I wanted to go to the very beginning of my channel. This is back before I had my current style for thumbnails. It was just all over the place. And this is back when I had the homestead back in Kansas. But I wanted to find my first interview with Troy on my channel. And I found it. Here it is. I'll put a link for this in the description box below. I think it'd be really fun to watch and see how things have changed over the years. This was back in November. It was November 6th of 2021. So we both just look completely different, especially me. Especially me. Yeah, this is back when I was in full homesteading mode. I didn't know what my channel was going to be. I envisioned it being a mixture of talking about the second coming, but also making homesteading videos. And we can all see which direction I went. It just became, church news, second coming, doctrine, and stuff like that. This is back before I even had a studio. This was our master bedroom. Oh my gosh, how things have changed. So, this is how it was at the very beginning of my channel. And this is where we're at right now. I never would have guessed it would have gotten this far and that I'd be living in Independence, Missouri, of all places, but here we are. Okay, so I've been thinking about this for a long time, at least a couple years. I remember when I first came across this story, I was like, oh, wow. So this is The Guardian, Steve Jobs' last words. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I don't know about you, but I am fascinated with the afterlife, the spirit world, um, final judgment, and going into whatever degree of glory you end up going into. I find it very comforting. I look forward to it. Not that I want to leave this life prematurely, but I do look forward to that time. I look forward to all of this being over, all of our earthly trials, and having everything settled, and ideally returning back into the presence of our Father in heaven. And we have our doctrine of the spirit world. That's where you go after this life. Before you're resurrected, you go to the spirit world. There's the two main divisions: spirit paradise for the righteous, and then spirit prison. And there's missionary work that's going on. And we don't know exactly what it looks like, but it seems like we do get little bits here and there through stories like this. And also, I have another one I'm going to read to you about Jedediah M. Grant. He was a member of the first presidency. As he was passing away, he was kind of slipping in and out of the spirit world, and he was able to report what he saw over there. And so I like to think about these type of things when I think about uh, like what happened with Troy recently. He is now in the spirit world, and I know that he's experiencing a lot of relief and he's happy and he's with family that's on the other side of the veil. So let's look at this interesting story about Steve Jobs. By the way, he passed away from pancreatic cancer. That's what killed him. The last words of the late, much lauded, and much quoted Steve Jobs have been revealed almost a month after the Apple co founder died at the age of 56. Jobs, who once memorably described death as, quote, very likely the single best invention of life, end quote, which I think that's interesting. Um, we know that we come here for a purpose and that this life is good, but the best is yet to come. I think that's the spirit in which he says this. The best is yet to come. So, Jobs, who once memorably described death as very likely the single best invention of life, departed this world with a lingering look at his family and the simple, if mysterious, observation, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. Details of his final moments came from his sister Mona Simpson, who has allowed the New York Times to publish the eulogy she delivered at his memorial service on the 16th of October. In it, she explains how she rushed to Jobs' bedside after he asked her to come to see him as soon as possible. Quote, his tone was affectionate, dear, loving, but like someone whose luggage was already strapped onto the vehicle, who was already on the beginning of his journey, even as he was sorry, truly deeply sorry to be leaving us, she writes. When she arrived, she found Jobs surrounded by his family. Quote, he looked into his children's eyes as if he couldn't unlock his gaze, end quote. And managing to hang on to consciousness, she said. After making it through one final night, wrote Simpson, her brother began to slip away. Quote, His breath indicated an arduous journey, some steep path, altitude. He seemed to be climbing. Steve's final words, hours earlier, were monosyllables, repeated 3 times. Before embarking, he'd looked at his sister Patty, then for a long time at his children, then at his life partner, Laureen, and then over their shoulders, past them. Now that part's really interesting because I've studied a little bit about end of life experiences. I guess it started maybe a year or two ago. Well, about 2 years ago when we were still in Kansas. I have a viewer who's a hospice nurse, and she told me about the different like end of life phenomena that take place that they're very used to as hospice nurses. And one of those things is visioning, where they start to see people that have passed away. I haven't come across any instance where they see people that are still alive but are not there. It's always people who have passed away. And it's common. It's not unusual. The interesting thing about it is that there's reports of people visioning at the end of life and seeing people that they didn't know were already dead, but those people came to them at their bedside as they themselves were about to pass away. It seems as though, and I have accounts of this on the spreadsheet we're about to look at for visions, visitations, end of life experiences. Um, it seems like this is common where when you're at the end of life, you have relatives that come to get you. Like they come to essentially escort you into the next life. So I think that's what's happening here. And as he's looking at his children and his wife and all that, there's probably more that he's seeing in that moment, I would think, as he's looking at them. But when he looks over their shoulders, I definitely think that he's visioning for sure by that point. So, and then over their shoulders, past them, Steve's final words were, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." I love that. I love that. And I like to think about Troy um, having something similar as he passed into the next life, into a better place, and with his family, and just being astonished. Now, as to some of the details of what it's like over there, um, I have this spreadsheet. A lot of these are near death experiences. We're going to cover one of those. Like I said, this is Jedediah M. Grant. He was a member of the first presidency, and this is related by Brigham Young. I actually have 2 accounts, but I'm going to go to the one that's more extensive. Oh, sorry, no, this first one's by Brigham Young. This other one is by President Heber C. Kimball, first counselor in the first presidency. You can find this in Journal of Discourses, Volume 4, pages 135 to 137. Yeah, let's go ahead and read this whole thing. The ideas that Brother Brigham has just advanced are congenial with my feelings, perfectly so. During Brother Grant's brief sickness, I would not believe for one moment that he was going to die, though my feelings would at times incline me to doubt as to his recovery, but I would not give way to them. And now it is only the body that is dead, for his spirit will never die. It has overcome death and hell, and laid aside its earthly tenement, that may return to its native element, awaiting the morn of the resurrection when the spirit will receive it in an immortal state, and then have gained the victory over death, hell, and the grave. In regard to the lifeless body that now lies before us, let me tell you that morning and making a great let me tell you that mourning and making a great parade over it is similar to what it would be for me to lament about a house which the occupants had forsaken. I left a house in Nauvoo, but do you suppose that I fret about it? I do not. And what is the use of gathering the bands together and the troops and performing lengthy and pompous ceremonies over a tenement the spirit has left? It will not give a picayune for all your parade. I will not stoop to the principle of death. I could weep, but I will not. There is a spirit in me that rises above that feeling, and it is because Jedediah is not dead. I went to see him one day last week, and he reached out his hand and shook hands with me. He could not speak, but he shook hands warmly with me. I felt for him and wanted to raise him up and to have him stay and help us whip the devils and bring to pass righteousness. Why? Because he was valiant and I loved him. He was a great help to us, and you would be if you were as valiant as he was, which you can be through faithfulness and obedience. I laid my hands upon him and blessed him and asked God to strengthen his lungs that he might be easier. And in 2 or 3 minutes, he raised himself up and talked for about an hour as busily as he could, telling me what he had seen and what he understood until I was afraid he would weary himself when I arose and left him. Okay, now this is what he experienced on the other side as he was slipping between worlds. He said to me, "Brother Heber, I've been into the spirit world 2 nights in succession, and of all the dreads that ever came across me, the worst was to have to again return to my body, though I had to do it. But oh," says he, "the order and government that were there. When in the spirit world I saw the order of righteous men and women, beheld them organized in their several grades, and there appeared to be no obstruction to my vision. I could see every man and woman in their grade and order. I looked to see whether there was any disorder there, but there was none. Neither could I see any death, nor any darkness, disorder, or confusion." He said that the people he there saw were organized in family capacities. And when he looked at them, he saw grade after grade, and all were organized and in perfect harmony. He would mention one item after another and say, "Why, it is just as Brother Brigham says it is. It is just as he has told us many a time." That is a testimony as to the truth of what Brother Brigham teaches us, and I know it is true from what little light I have. He saw the righteous gathered together in the spirit world, and there were no wicked spirits among them. Oh, that would be amazing. He saw his wife. She was the first person that came to him. He saw many that he knew, but did not have conversation with any except his wife, Caroline. She came to him, and he said that she looked beautiful and had their little child that died on the plains in her arms, and said, "Mr. Grant, here is little Margaret. You know that the wolves ate her up, but it did not hurt her. Here she is all right." To my astonishment, he said, "When I looked at families, there was a deficiency in some. There was a lack. For I saw families that would not be permitted to come and dwell together because they had not honored their calling here." He asked his wife Caroline where Joseph and Hiram and Father Smith and others were. She replied, "They have gone away ahead to perform and transact business for us." The same as when Brother Brigham and his brethren left winter quarters and came here to search out a home, they came to find a location for their brethren. I wish I knew more about that and what that means. He also spoke of the buildings he saw there, remarking that the Lord gave Solomon wisdom and poured gold and silver into his hands that he might display his skill and ability, and said that the temple erected by Solomon was much inferior to the most ordinary buildings he saw in the spirit world. That's pretty incredible. I'm looking forward to that. In regards to gardens, says Brother Grant, "I've seen good gardens on this earth, but I never saw any to compare with those that are there. I saw flowers of numerous kinds, and some with 50 to 100 different colored flowers growing upon one stalk. We have many kinds of flowers on the earth, and I suppose those very articles came from heaven, or they would not be here. After mentioning the things which he had seen, he spoke of how much he disliked to return and resume his body, after having seen the beauty and glory of the spirit world, where the righteous spirits are gathered together. Some may marvel at my speaking about these things, for many profess to believe that we have no spiritual existence. But do you not believe that my spirit was organized before it came to my body here? And do you not think there can be houses and gardens, fruit trees, and every other good thing there? The spirits of those things were made, as well as our spirits, and it follows that they can exist upon the same principle. After speaking of the gardens and the beauties of everything there, Brother Grant said that he felt extremely sorrowful at having to leave so beautiful a place and come back to Earth, for he looked upon his body with loathing, but was obliged to enter it again. He said that after he came back, he could look upon his family and see the spirit that was in them. Oh, he said that when he came back, he could look upon his family and the spirit that was in them and the darkness that was in them. Okay, I don't know if I've ever really paid attention to that. That's interesting. That is interesting after what we just read about Steve Jobs, because I don't know. I don't know if he went to spirit prison or spirit paradise. Um, I mean, I don't know exactly how that works. I know that the righteous go. Okay, I'm not going to pass judgment. I don't know, but his sister described him as having looked like at his children for a long time. So he looked into his children's eyes as if he couldn't unlock his gaze. And then later, before embarking, he'd look at his sister Patty, then for a long time at his children, then at his life's partner, Laureen, and then over their shoulders past them. I wonder if this is what was going on. He said that after he came back, he could look upon his family and see the spirit that was in them and the darkness that was in them, and that he conversed with them about the gospel and what they should do. And they replied, "Well, Brother Grant, perhaps it is so, and perhaps it is not," and said that was the state of this people to a great extent, for many are full of darkness and will not believe me. I never had a view of the righteous assembling in the spirit world, but I've had a view of the host of hell and have seen them as plainly as I see you today. So this is Heber C. Kimball saying that. Um, I think he's referring to when he was on his mission in England. Him, Wilford Woodruff, and others were literally attacked by evil spirits, like physically attacked. I think that's what he's talking about. The righteous spirits gathered together to prepare and qualify themselves for a future day, and evil spirits have no power over them, though they are constantly striving for the mastery. I have seen evil spirits attempt to overcome those holding the priesthood, and I know how they act. I feel well, and I do not feel to condescend to a spirit of mourning. If I do weep, I will weep for my own sins and not for Jedediah. If he could speak, he would say, "Weep not for me, but weep for your own sins." Before Brother Grant was taken sick, he said that he had unsheathed his sword, in that it never should be sheathed again until the enemies of righteousness were subdued, and he fought the devil up to the last, and used to proclaim that he should not prevail on this earth. I can say that he left us with a sword unsheathed, and he will help Joseph and Hiram and Willard. Okay, I'm so glad that I chose to read this story. I think it was probably inspired. I wish I knew more about this. I think this is the only account that I have of somebody coming back and having the ability to see the spirit in, I don't know, the people here on Earth, friends and family members. And who knows exactly what he saw? I doubt that he saw their, deepest, darkest secrets, but with spiritual eyes, like actual spiritual eyes, maybe there's more that you can see in another person when you can see their spirit and somehow detect darkness. On this channel, we've talked about how with your physical body, there's certain things that manifest in your face, in your body, um, yeah, your countenance, essentially. I did a whole video about that, about your countenance. It's not just there are things that will manifest in your body and in your face based on how you live your life. And if you could see a spirit, well, that would be pretty interesting. But I guess that's what he saw. And perhaps that's what Steve Jobs was experiencing here when he was like just like fixating on his family members. So anyway, um again, we're thinking about Troy, my friend from the last Dispensation channel. He passed away the day that we got this house, which was just a shock to me. Um and he leaves behind his wife and children, so please support him if you can, if those links work. If I get an update, I tried to reach out to Andrea, but I haven't heard back. But if I get an update, I'll let you know if there's like any better links. But try the ones that I put in the description box. And if you can attend his funeral, please do so. And like I said, I'll put the link for this video, our first interview, in the description box if you'd like to check that out and have a blast from the past. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.